right, good morning, you guys. Today the Lord wants me to do a little something different. He's leading me to Deuteronomy 28. Do a little bit of I'm going to give you a little some of my testimony, and then I'm also going to read some of this to you all, just to show you how important obedience is. Okay. So in my testimony, oh boy, hi, let's see where to start here. Okay, I'm just going to start like later once I started walking with the Lord, I do believe here. So, when I started walking with the Lord, first of all, my life was falling apart. I knew that, I always knew God was or I always believed, okay, but I didn't pray very much. I was very much an idol worshiper, frankly. Uh, I didn't realize that though, because I was really dumb with this stuff, you guys. Really was. I was thinking graven images, Well, turns out what an idol is anything that you think about more than you do God. Okay. It doesn't matter what it is. If you're a total sports fan, which I'm a huge football fan, my team, yeah, I was idol worshiping that. There, boy, I love to play golf. I was idol worshiping that. You name it. I mean, I was doing everything but except for thinking about him. Now I would pray. Um, to him every once in a while, but it was always when I needed something. That was it. That's all I did. I couldn't hear him back then because, I know now that he hadn't opened my eyes to see and my ears to hear. That's why that is so critical. My life was falling apart. And so then I turned to him and I'm like, Lord, I know I'm messing up. I'm like, I know that you know me better than I know myself. I need you to help me. What is wrong with me? Why am I messing up so much? I need you to show me. So that's how it really began for me. And then he led me, he wanted me to go to church. He just kept putting on my heart. I kept thinking about, geez, I need to get baptized. I need to get baptized. I need to get baptized. So I went after that. I was like, okay, I tried to, my husband and I wanted my husband and son to go with me. Okay. So I started reading my word and all that. And like 3 years, I'm like trying to talk my husband into going. And then he finally said, he was baptized Methodist. So I'm like, I don't care what church we go to. I'm like, just, how about if we go to the Methodist church since that's where you were baptized? And he's like, he said, no, I don't like church. All they want is money, whatever. So finally, I was like, all right, I got to go do this on my own. So then I went out and I tried to find a church. I tried the Lutheran church. A friend of mine invited me with her. I went to that one and I was like, okay, yeah. But I wanted to make sure I explored different churches, right? So then I went to a church that was non-denominational, and I got to be honest. Now I'm completely changed now, but when I went there, everybody was throwing their hands up in the air and stuff. I'm like, oh boy, no, this is not me. I'm not going to this one. Now I realize I was foolish. I probably would have been a better choice. Then I tried the Presbyterian church, and that one I went in there, and one of the greeters was like talking to me. Oh, seeing you here, and I was like, oh boy, I felt like it was totally private. It made me skittish, frankly. I see in hindsight that that's what she was supposed to do, but it made me skittish. So I was like, okay, no, I don't want that one. And then I had been to the Catholic Church several times. My dad was Catholic, so my mom and dad were divorced. So when we would go visit him, then we'd go to the Catholic Church. Well, I liked it there, okay? Because and I had been to the one where I live before, and I liked it because it was pretty much nobody really talked to you when you went in there, right? I was like, okay, this is totally personal. I knew I needed to be baptized publicly, and I wanted to do that. Um, but anyway, so I liked it there though because I was like, I wanted to just have this little thing with me and God, right? So then I went there for like 3 years, and I decided to get baptized finally. And so then I went through RCIA program, and a friend of mine was, she was my sponsor. You have to have a sponsor when you go through RCIA. Um, and so went through that process. It was an amazing experience. All kinds of weird stuff happened when I was going through that. One thing specifically I remember, when they anointed me, I they cross your forehead, okay, after I was baptized, they have you go up in front of the church and everybody gets anointed. And so when I got anointed, I noticed that this oil tingled on my forehead. Because they just cross your forehead with it, right? And so I was like, wow, that's interesting. I'm like, oh, it must be some kind of spices or something in there, you know? Well, the Lord made sure my son and my husband were sitting out there. And I went, after we got done with that part of it, then I got to go sit next to them. So I sat next to my son, and the oil was dripping down my nose. So I was like, I wiped it off my nose, and then I crossed his forehead with it. And I said, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And so, so he looked at me with shock. He goes, "Did this go on your forehead?" And I said, "Yeah, I did." I said, "But I think that's just something inside the oil. I don't know." So the Lord made sure this stood out, because then after I got baptized, I uh, we had one more meeting after that, and everybody just talked about that day. So they were going around the whole group, and there were several people in there with their sponsors. So they're going around the room, and I raised my hand, and I was like, I'm just curious. Did anybody else feel a tingle when the Lord put oil on your forehead? And everybody went, no. It's like, okay, so then that just stuck out to me. He made sure that these kind of things stuck out. Another weird thing that happened to me was, we had a bunch of buckthorn in our front yard, and I had decided right around that time to get out there because it was early spring and cut it down because it was like taking over in our front yard. So I had a friend of mine come over, a friend of mine's son came over and helped. And boy, we both just got so scratched up, it wasn't even funny. My arms were like crazy scratched up, and I was like, what the heck? So when I got baptized, it reminded me of it. I don't know if you've ever seen these, but like I've noticed on the highway several semis that have like a picture of Jesus, and he's got his thorny crown on, and he's just cut up all over the place. I would looked at my arms, and I'm like, oh boy, that looks like that kind of looks like Jesus. So when I got baptized, I had these scratches all over me too. So those two crazy things happened there. And there was more too, you guys. There always is with him. So, so I went to the Catholic Church for a while. And I actually taught Catholicism with the little kids, first and second graders. But then me and a girlfriend did it together, and we also brought Jesus into it. She would read like uh, the children's Bible. And the Lord at the time had me into all these stories. It was amazing how He coordinated it. I had been reading them, I had them like memorized. So they would just give a little tidbit, and then I would be sitting out with the kids. They'd all be gathered around listening, and she'd show the pictures and stuff. Well, then I would just come in and I would tell them further details about it. I know now that it was all the Lord doing this, you guys. And we noticed that was cool. I really loved that. We noticed right away that these little kids really knew nothing about Jesus, you know. So we played a game. I came up with it. It was a game that we asked a bunch of questions, you know, like we would ask, name a miracle that Jesus did. Oh, you guys. So anyway, we noticed that they didn't know anything, right? They only knew his name. So we decided that we were going to do that at the beginning of the year and the end, just so we could see how fun it was, how much they learned. Well, boy, the third year I did it, we went or had to go around the room twice, you guys. They learned so much about Jesus. So I absolutely love that. But the Catholic Church, there's another thing that they're messing up on. All they want to do is teach these children about Catholicism. What about Jesus? You know, come on. So anyway, the Lord pulled me out of that. They extended the class to like an hour and a half. It was hard enough to try, and the next year they were going to. It was hard enough to keep these little ones' attention for 1 hour. So I was like, no, I don't want to do it anymore. My goodness, come on, an hour and a half with little first graders? That is just ridiculous. So anyway, he pulled me out of that. Boy, everything in my life pretty much started going, it just got weird. All my friends started turning against me. um I just didn't fit in anymore. I was wanting to talk about God all the time and Jesus and trying to share the gospel like we're supposed to do. I was trying to be a disciple. It just got weirder and weirder. And, frankly, at first I didn't understand, but I ended up separating from all these friends that I hung out with for 15 years because it just was miserable for me, you guys. I just was like, my gosh. And, nobody wanted to listen, nobody wanted to talk to me. So I was like, oh, this is just too weird. So I'm done with it. So anyway, I just let it go. And I was upset about it. I was very upset. I kept talking about God to God about it. I was like, what, Lord? I was like, I don't understand why you did this. I knew you were going to change things in my life, but I certainly did not expect you to take my friends out of my life. I thought that that'd be the last thing you do. And he said to me, he said, this was, at the beginning of me starting to hear him. He said, I had to keep asking him now. He didn't answer me for a while. Then he finally said, Linda, I took them out of your life because they would have held you back. And I knew exactly what he was talking about right away because our my husband and my best buddies that we hung out with all the time, I was talking to him one night and I thought everybody could hear Jesus, you guys. And so I was sharing something that God had told me, and they said, what? God told you? And they both just started laughing at me and just thought it was funny as can be. So I knew exactly what he was talking about because had I stuck around these people, then I would have been convinced of whatever they believed. So he pulled me out of there for that reason. I still love all these people. It got weird. They all like started turning against me. I didn't get that, but it was all because he wanted me out of there so that I wouldn't get held back. All right, so I think that took a minute or a while. I think I'll stop right there, and then I'm going to come back, and then I'll get into Deuteronomy. I'll do a second one with this. All right, I'll be back.